Long before Hollywood wrapped itself in strict morality, audiences witnessed a wild, unruly era where filmmakers pushed boundaries with fearless abandon. These were stories filled with desire, violence, corruption, and open rebellion against polite society. They shocked critics, they terrified studio bosses, and they forced the industry to rewrite its own rulebook. Today, we revisit 12 pre-code shockers so wild, they changed cinema forever. Number 12. 3 on a Match, 1932. 3 on a Match arrives with the elegance of a drama yet hides the explosive heart of a moral panic time bomb. It opens as a tale of 3 childhood friends following them into adulthood where their paths diverge into comfort, fame, and ultimately ruin. What audiences did not expect was the brutal honesty and unsettling decay that unfolded on screen without restraint. The film throws viewers into the downward spiral of Vivian, a wealthy young wife who abandons her family for a life of addiction, criminal lovers, and self-destruction. Her fall from grace was presented with stark realism, giving Depression-era audiences a grim mirror of the world they lived in. Her scenes with gangsters, her neglect of her child, and her devastating moral collapse felt too raw, too true, and far too dangerous for the Hollywood of the time. Censors panicked at the unflinching portrayal of narcotics, kidnapping, suicide, and the horrific climax that left moviegoers stunned. Critics attacked the film for glamorizing depravity, even though it served as a cautionary tragedy. Studio executives feared backlash from moral guardians who claimed films like this threatened the nation's youth. 3 on a Match became a rallying cry for reform, leading watchdogs to demand stricter oversight. It showed how far pre-code cinema was willing to go and how terrified Hollywood became when the curtain of permissiveness threatened to tear completely. Number 11. Red-Headed Woman, 1932. Red-Headed Woman did not simply push boundaries. It danced past them with a wicked smile. Jean Harlow plays Lil Andrews, a cunning, ambitious woman determined to rise from working-class obscurity by seducing her wealthy employer. Instead of condemning her, the film celebrates her daring spirit, allowing her to manipulate men with intelligence, charm, and raw sexuality. Audiences gasped at Lil's brazen pursuit of power. She breaks up a marriage. She shoots a man. She runs off with another woman's husband. She faces no punishment, and in classic pre-code fashion, she ends her story wealthy, adored, and utterly unrepentant. This was the nightmare scenario for moral crusaders who demanded that wicked women must fall and good girls must triumph. Jean Harlow's performance bristles with playful defiance, challenging the very idea that women in films should remain pure and submissive. Her flirtations, her innuendo-filled dialogue, and her bold autonomy sent censors into hysterics. They insisted the film encouraged immorality, taught women bad behavior, and undermined the sanctity of marriage. The controversy grew so intense that Red-Headed Woman became one of the prime examples cited during hearings demanding a fully enforced production code. The film demonstrated that audiences would cheer for an unapologetically transgressive heroine and that Hollywood left unchecked would continue delivering scandalous entertainment. Red-Headed Woman did not just test the limits, it tore them open, proving that the pre-code era was a revolutionary battleground long before censorship tightened its grip. Number 10. Babyface, 1933. Babyface shocked the nation with its audacity. Barbara Stanwyck plays Lily Powers, a woman who escapes a life of exploitation only to weaponize the very forces that oppressed her. She rises through a powerful corporation by seducing her superiors one floor at a time in a scandalous visual metaphor that alarmed every moral watchdog in America. Audiences had never seen such a direct portrayal of a woman using men as stepping stones to power. Even more shocking, she does so with intelligent self-awareness and complete control. Lily is not punished for her ambition and instead exposes the hypocrisy of the predatory men who try to dominate her. For the first time, Hollywood let a woman seize the system and bend it to her will. Censors erupted in outrage. They attacked the film for endorsing sinful behavior and glamorizing seduction. Religious groups threatened boycotts. Politicians demanded intervention. The scandal became so intense that the film was pulled, re-edited, and reissued with a milder ending that softened Lily's independence. The original version remained hidden for decades until rediscovered, proving how far the story had once gone. Babyface became one of the most influential cases in the crackdown that followed. Its message of empowerment, its defiance of traditional morality, and its willingness to portray sexuality as a weapon made it essential viewing for anyone seeking to understand why Hollywood demanded stricter rules. Number 9. The Story of Temple Drake, 1933. The Story of Temple Drake is one of the darkest and most unsettling films ever made in the pre-code era. Based loosely on William Faulkner's Sanctuary, it tells the harrowing tale of a privileged young woman who becomes entangled with violent criminals after a terrifying assault leaves her physically and psychologically shattered. The film terrified audiences with its bold depiction of trauma. Temple is kidnapped, forced into the underworld, and manipulated by a gangster whose control over her was portrayed with shocking intimacy. Censors recoiled at the implication of sexual violence, noting that no Hollywood film had ever approached the subject with such disturbing clarity. Critics warned that the movie might corrupt women by suggesting they could become complicit in their own downfall. Moral reformers declared it dangerous, immoral, and psychologically damaging. Religious organizations used Temple Drake as Exhibit A in their crusade for stricter filmmaking rules, arguing that Hollywood had lost all sense of restraint. The uproar was so severe that this single film is often cited as one of the primary catalysts that convinced studios to fully enforce the production code. It became a symbol of everything moralists believed cinema should not portray, even though its intention was to warn, not exploit. The Story of Temple Drake remains a haunting reminder of how fearless and brutal the pre-code era could be and how far Hollywood went before the clampdown arrived. Number 8. Jewel Robbery, 1932. Jewel Robbery is the seductive criminal fantasy critics never saw coming. William Powell and Kay Francis star in a playful story where a suave thief robs a jewelry shop with charm wit and an arsenal of unconventional methods, including handing out marijuana cigarettes to calm witnesses. For the early 30s, this was beyond outrageous. The film presents crime as elegant, stylish, and even desirable. The thief never faces punishment. The heroine falls for him. The police are portrayed as bumbling outmatched and easily manipulated. Everything that moral reformers wanted film to condemn was instead glorified with a wink. Audiences loved it. Censors did not. They were horrified by the casual drug use portrayed as harmless fun. They attacked the film for glamorizing dangerous behavior and promoting moral decay. Jewel Robbery became a lightning rod in the debate over how Hollywood depicted criminality, especially when combined with sexuality and humor. As pressure-mounted studio executives realized the pre-code era could not last. Films like Jewel Robbery proved how effortlessly cinema could challenge social expectations and encourage fantasies beyond moral boundaries. It became a case study for reformers demanding that criminals must never appear too charming and sin must never appear too pleasurable. Number 7. She Done Him Wrong, 1933. She Done Him Wrong dripped with dangerous charm and unapologetic desire. Mae West storms the screen as Lady Lou, a saloon singer whose wit, curves, and sheer confidence captivated every man in her orbit. Audiences were stunned not only by West's bold delivery but by the film's fearless celebration of sexuality, power, and independence at a time when moral guardians demanded the opposite. The film revels in innuendo. West toys with men, plays rivals against each other, and flirts with a raw intensity that pushed national censors to their breaking point. She nearly seduces a mission worker. Played by Cary Grant, she runs a saloon filled with criminals, and she does it all with a smile that seemed to mock the very idea of restraint. Critics complained that the film invited moral collapse by presenting desire as fun rather than sinful. Religious groups launched protests claiming Mae West was destroying traditional womanhood and turning cinema into a breeding ground for temptation. Politicians warned that Hollywood could not continue down this provocative path. West's bold persona became a target of outrage, leading many to blame her films for the eventual enforcement of the production code. She Done Him Wrong may appear lighthearted, but its cultural shockwaves were enormous. It proved that audiences adored forbidden stories, and that performers like Mae West could ignite national scandal simply by being themselves. Hollywood took note and tightened the leash. Number 6. I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang, 1932. I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang blasted into theaters like a cannon of truth, exposing the brutal reality of the Southern prison system. Paul Muni plays James Allen, a war veteran wrongfully sentenced to hard labor. What made the film revolutionary was its refusal to soften the cruelty inflicted upon prisoners. Chains, whips, escape attempts, and hopelessness fill the screen with shocking honesty. Audiences were horrified. They had never seen such systemic abuse portrayed with documentary intensity. Studios usually portrayed institutions as fair and noble, but this film accused real states, real prisons, and real officials of barbaric behavior. Southern politicians demanded the film be banned. Some states threatened lawsuits if theaters continued screening it. Newspapers called it un-American, even though its story was based on a true case. The ending was the final blow. Allen does not find justice. He disappears into the darkness, confessing he survives by stealing. Moralists insisted films must show righteousness triumphing over corruption, but this film declared that sometimes evil wins. It was a devastating indictment of legal systems that shocked the nation. The uproar pushed Hollywood toward reform out of fear that more films might provoke political retaliation. Chain Gang proved cinema could expose societal horrors, and authorities realized they needed tighter control before Hollywood became too rebellious. Number 5. Scarface, 1932. Scarface was a grenade thrown into the heart of Hollywood morality. Directed by Howard Hawks and produced by Howard Hughes, it portrayed gangster life with an energy that thrilled audiences and outraged censors. Paul Muni plays Tony Camonte, a ruthless criminal whose violent rise mirrors the real-world exploits of Al Capone. The problem for reformers was simple. The film made crime look exciting. Explosive shootouts, stylish nightclubs, a gangster hero who refused to bow to authority. Scarface captured the lawless spirit of the era so effectively that censors demanded extensive cuts and reshoots. States banned it entirely. Religious leaders argued the film glorified evil and would inspire young men to imitate criminals. Hughes refused to back down, insisting on releasing the film intact, which sparked a war between studios and the moral establishment. The sibling relationship between Tony and his sister added another layer of controversy due to its unsettling intensity, hinting at themes audiences had never seen in mainstream films. Critics attacked its violence, its sexuality, and its anarchic tone. The chaos surrounding Scarface became one of the most decisive battles in the campaign for stricter censorship. Reformers argued that if Hollywood could produce something this explosive and defiant, then no boundary existed. Scarface remains an essential emblem of why the production code was soon enforced. Number 4. Red Dust, 1932. Red Dust ignited scandal with its steamy love triangle set on a remote Indochina rubber plantation. Clark Gable plays a rugged overseer whose entanglements with the refined Barbara and the magnetic Van Tyne, played by Jean Harlow, create a storm of passion that shocked even hardened moviegoers. The film blends erotic tension-adventure and moral ambiguity with fearless confidence. Harlow's sensual bathtub scene became one of the most notorious moments of pre-code cinema. No film had shown a woman with such bold, teasing energy. Her chemistry with Gable made critics declare the film dangerously seductive. Meanwhile, the story challenges marriage fidelity and class expectations in ways that unsettled moral watchdogs. Reviewers labeled the film immoral, exotic, and indecent. Religious organizations condemned it for promoting lust and disrespecting marriage. Several regions demanded edits or refused exhibition entirely. Hollywood began to realize just how powerful the backlash could become when audiences encountered raw adult material. Red Dust helped cement Gable and Harlow as icons while simultaneously pushing the industry closer toward strict censorship. It proved sensuality could be both artistic and explosive, and that audiences would flock to forbidden stories, even while reformers fought to shut them down. Number 3. Trouble in Paradise, 1932. Trouble in Paradise arrives disguised as a glamorous romantic comedy. But beneath its elegance lies a daring exploration of theft, seduction, and moral ambiguity. Ernst Lubitsch directs with playful sophistication, crafting a story in which charming criminals are not punished, but celebrated. Audiences were delighted. Censors were horrified. The plot revolves around two master thieves who fall in love while planning the perfect con. They seduce, manipulate, and deceive with grace and humor. The wealthy mark they target is portrayed as sympathetic. Yet the film refuses to punish the criminals. Instead, they escape without consequence, leaving audiences cheering. Hollywood moralists insisted this was unacceptable. Criminals must never win. Desire must never overshadow decency. Yet Lubitsch created a world where charm triumphs over law and where relationships thrive on deception. Newspapers accused the film of undermining American values. Religious groups claimed it promoted immorality. Trouble in Paradise became one of the key examples used in arguments for the production code. Officials warned that if Hollywood continued producing films in which thieves were heroes, then public morals were at risk. Despite controversy, the film became a masterpiece of wit, elegance, and rebellion, reminding viewers that pre-code Hollywood was capable of sophistication far beyond the rules that soon followed. Number 2. Murders in the Rue Morgue, 1932. Murders in the Rue Morgue plunged audiences into a nightmare of abduction, experimentation, and twisted obsession. Bela Lugosi plays Dr. Miracle, a deranged scientist who kidnaps women to conduct disturbing experiments involving human and ape blood. Forbidden science and sadistic cruelty explode across the screen with a boldness that horrified censors. The film blends horror with perversity. Women are tied down, stabbed with needles, and subjected to invasive tests. Critics argued the film approached levels of sadism never before seen in American cinema. Religious leaders denounced its cruelty and its suggestion of bestiality. Several cities demanded it be banned or heavily cut before exhibition. Universal Studios was shocked by the backlash. While horror had become popular after Dracula and Frankenstein, this film crossed a line into darker psychological territory. Its villain was too real, too depraved, and too unsettling for an era that still expected morality to triumph. Murders in the Rue Morgue became a rallying point for moral crusaders who insisted Hollywood had grown reckless. They demanded the immediate enforcement of the production code to prevent films from exploring depravity without restraint. This film remains one of the most intense and boundary-breaking pre-code horror stories ever released. Number 1. The Public Enemy, 1931. The Public Enemy roared into theaters with the force of a cultural earthquake. James Cagney plays Tom Powers, a violent street thug whose rise through the criminal underworld mesmerized audiences. What terrified moral reformers was the film's raw energy, its brutal realism, and its refusal to frame Tom as anything other than a product of social decay. Cagney brought unprecedented ferocity to the screen. His unpredictable explosions of rage, his shocking treatment of women, and his lawless lifestyle pushed Hollywood into dangerous new territory. The infamous grapefruit scene became a national scandal, angering conservative audiences who believed such disrespect would corrupt male behavior. The film's violence stunned early viewers. Shootouts, beatings, and revenge killings were staged with an intensity that critics labeled subversive and morally dangerous. Some cities demanded the film be banned outright. Politicians warned that gangster films like this were inspiring juvenile delinquency. The ending, a chilling twist that denies redemption, cemented the film's legacy as a moral lightning rod. Reformers cited The Public Enemy repeatedly when arguing that Hollywood had lost control and needed stricter oversight. This film stands as the defining example of how far pre-code cinema pushed the boundaries and why the production code soon seized Hollywood by force. The pre-code era burned brief and bright a wild frontier, where Hollywood dared to expose desire, corruption, violence, and the shadows polite society tried to hide. These 12 shockers shattered expectations and forced the industry to rebuild its moral walls. Their legacy still pulses today, reminding us why rebellion shaped cinema forever.